Hey folks, it's Echo here. The second of the dev streams just completed and yielded a lot of new information. In regards to the new character models, they've created a number of player profiles which show off some of the new armor sets as well as the different configurations that you can do with the characters. During this section, they did mention that some armors would be unique male versus female, but some would be the same. They also noted that they're still working through these, so by the time we get the first experimental build, we should have even more of these to take a look at. While we're on the topic of armor, they also clarified something that came up last stream, and that's a question of whether the perks on the armor is scaled with the quality of the armor.
The quality of each armor dictates the magnitude of the perk. So a brown mining glove might give you 10% more harvest, and each one's probably a 10% increment, and the legendary bumps up even more than 10%. Usually that's like a 20% jump.
When Joel's talking about legendary gear, what he really means is just quality 6 gear, and we'll talk about this later in the video as it relates directly to the changes to progression. Random World Gen is getting a significant performance boost as well as some new features. During the stream, Lathan generated 4 8K maps, each of which took about 35 to 42 seconds, which is incredible from where we were. In terms of features, you can see that Burnt Forest has been added back to Random World Generation, and we also have a new option called Biome Layout, which is going to have 4 options: Center Forest, Center Wasteland, Circle, and Line. This will dictate how the biomes are structured on the map. You can see here is a Center Forest example. Next, we have an example of the line layout. And one important thing to call out, because it's obvious on this one, there's a natural progression to the biome. So left to right, you've got the forest biome goes to burnt biome, goes to desert, to snow, and finally to wasteland, which puts them all in order of difficulty. The next biome layout showed was the circle layout, and this was the only one that didn't fully follow that biome progression. So if you're looking for a more randomized map, this looks more your option. The preview in World Gen has also been enhanced. If you zoom in, you'll note that the different POIs are color-coded. Light blue is rural, yellow is industrial, dark blue commercial, gray downtown, green residential, red trader, and white wilderness. In addition to this, they've done a better job of making larger cities depending upon the map side as well as additional traders. A big part of the Random World Gen is also optimizing how the game plays, so they've added in new remnants and large remnants that we'll see when we review the POIs here that allow them to better optimize performance in downtown areas. The maps also play into progression, which I think is the most important change coming to 1.0. Here's Joel talking about some of the nerfs coming to quest rewards.
We tuned those in. They're not as good now as what they were. So if you're expecting to get all this crazy rewards, no. And we kind of cut the amount of dukes you get in half.
So reading between the lines, it also sounded like trader inventories were being reined in, and they also did a lot of other tuning just to make sure that the progression is more linear. They recognize that right now in the current state, it's very easy to skip. Sometimes you move all the way from stone even up to steel tools. One other change that'll slow progression is that they are linking traders to biomes.
We touched the trader biomes order, so Rect is in the forest, Jen is in burnt, Bob is in the desert, he was in snow, and Joel's in the wasteland. And that's the opening trade routes, I think was what we called it historically.
Right, and they will always send you to the next biome now. So the progression is very predictable. Instead of, oh, I've just got sent to Trader Rec number 2 in the same biome. It doesn't do that anymore.
So the bad news is this means we're going to get Trader Rec the first time every time, but it also means we're logically going to find all the different traders simply by doing the trader route quests. The next progression change is around crafting, and yes folks, we finally get access to craft quality 6 items.
Higher tier difficult quest, either the trader reward or in loot chest rewards will offer you a one offer. It could possibly be a reward. You might find it. They're kind of rare, but it's a legendary crafting component.
So based off of what Lathan was showing us here, all quality 6 items will require legendary parts in order to build, but it's only a single part. One of the things that was not mentioned was whether or not we would find quality 6 gear in loot, because if we can, it will undermine any need to craft quality 6 items or find these legendary parts. So to wrap things up on progression and timelines, here's what Joel had to say.
Two guys that know what they're doing kind of get fairly in-game by about day 70 or 80 now versus day 20 to 30.
So everyone likes to approach the game differently, but for me, this is a massive improvement. Playthroughs will definitely take a lot longer, and we're going to have to make meaningful choices. Joel went on to kind of talk about the scarcity of resources and how you never quite have enough dukes to buy what you want.
It's just a little bit of a struggle. Everything's a little bit of a struggle. You can get what you need, and as far as the economy goes, you can buy what you what you really need, but you can't buy everything you want.
In terms of story, they've added thousands of new lines of dialogue for the traders. They brought in 5 new voice actors. They're going to be keeping the same voice actor for Recht and for Trader Jen, but all of them will be a little bit more dynamic and react to things like weather, I assume some of the quests, and with each other actually.
The nice thing too is every trader does their own sort of voiceover for the announcements too.
There's opening and closing sounds are custom per trader. They have kind of like some rumors. I don't think those are wired in yet, but they're going to be.
You better
can
take
ask them
this job.
about these rumors, and they're going to basically
your bullshit.
talk about what they like and dislike. Maybe talk about Duke and Noah. They'll talk about the other traders.
What are you standing there
There's a little
for?
bit of
Don't you have work to
rapport
do?
going on between the traders that they're going to tell you, the player, as, and it's kind of some interesting side stories you can pick up on.
So not exactly story mode, but we're definitely heading in the direction of having a more real and dynamic feeling world where the traders are connected to each other. Next up, we're getting a lot of new POIs. Rick noted about 75 plus. Specifically, there's going to be 5 new tier 5s, 6 new tier 4s, and then a number of new large remnants. They showed off 4 of the new tier 5s, starting off with Grover High, which you can see here. It's a pretty sprawling high school, lots of helper cars surrounding it, so this will be a great place for salvage. Next, they had the Minotaur Theater, and I feel like this one was teased in an earlier alpha that we never saw. They teased a little bit of the inside. We got to see the foyer here, and then Lathan flew us into the set area. He didn't want to show everything off because apparently there's some type of event that occurs here, and honestly, I just want to know what those chairs scrap into. Next, we have a massive hotel here called the 7 Days Suites. And if you pay attention in the top left as we approach here, you'll see falling debris. It looks like a lot of the new POIs are going to have events that are triggered as you approach them or as you're going through them just to make them a little bit more dynamic. On a quick glance, this brings back a lot of memories of kind of the Higashi building once you get up to that top layer, just in terms of the aesthetics of it. The last tier 5 that they showed off was an older POI that's been completely revamped. The old football stadium has been completely overhauled and reimagined, and this might be one of the most excited POIs I'm looking forward to, because when you see it, it has kind of a whole story built into it. On the field, it looks like it's been invaded by the Army plus the CDC. Tons of construction going on. This one is going to be a blast. We got to see 3 of the new tier 4 POIs, starting with Installation Blue Ridge. You can see this one is a large military complex that clearly has a lot of area beneath it. They peeked into the inside a little bit, and you can see it just sprawls downward, kind of circling down to the bottom. And I just noticed those vault doors are updated, even from what we just got in Alpha 21. Those look completely new. So again, from a design perspective, this one looks largely inspired by the Mesa compound, perhaps just on a slightly smaller scale. The next tier 4 POI was the Utility Refinery 02. I'm guessing this is one of the more recent ones because all the rest of them have kind of human readable names, and this is kind of more the code name for it. In Alpha 21, they added a lot more utility companies. We had some of the electrical buildings and things like that, so it looks like we're just continuing on that theme, and now we've got a gas company. I would expect that there's going to be a large number of triggered events here involving explosions, and I'm here for it. The last tier 4 that they showed us was Gold Rush Station, and as opposed to kind of all the army bases, they noted multiple times that there was no labeling or signs on the outside of this one as to allude to a, some type of gold mining operation that's guised as a military compound. In terms of a tier 4, this doesn't seem very large, so I'm guessing there might be some area underneath it. If we kind of look at the sides, you can see there's definitely some space to work with. This brings us to something new in 1.0, and that is large remnants. I mean, massive sized remnants. And if you're unfamiliar with what a remnant is in 7 Days to Die, these are POIs that are not questable and typically have been kind of small filler POIs that sit between other ones. But my understanding from what Rick and Joel were talking about, these have been introduced in city type areas and things like that to be able to lower the amount of resources required, because for whatever reason the questing POIs take a lot more. I don't know if it's the sleeper volumes or what it is specifically, but these will be interesting little places to go explore, go searching for loot. And then one of the best things about remnants is using them for bases, because you don't have to worry about someone starting a quest and triggering it and having half of your base get nuked. The second remnant that they showed us was significantly smaller, but this one was also interesting from the perspective that there is a whole story kind of built into this. Rick was joking about the whole block owner named Bruno who lives in the top flat there, and there's apparently some information all strewn throughout it that kind of ties the whole area together. We got to see all the new vehicles, starting with the bicycle. It has kind of a more modern mountain bike appearance to it. And on quick glance at watching him ride around, looks like it rides a little bit smoother than the old one. It can take mods, but there is no plans for an additional seating mod for this one. Here is the updated mini bike, and thankfully without a toilet seat on the back of it. However, you can slap a folding chair on the back of it for an extra seating spot. They did mention that the animations need a little work. You can see that the hands aren't quite on the handlebars here, but otherwise the movement seems a little bit more robust. Overall, the look and feel of it is just a lot more substantial than kind of the little moped looking critter that we had before. The motorcycle is shifted to more of kind of a chopper look to it. And this one also has some new mods that we didn't have before. So Lathan will cycle through here and add on. You've got the armor mod that you can see adds these plates to the front of it. Then there's the expanded seating mod here, which adds a section on the back. And then he went on to add the turbocharger, which was hard to find. And then the lights, and tinted the thing black so that we can just see a little bit of the different perspective on it. So I'm not gonna lie, I kind of miss the old design, but you know, we'll kind of grow into it. This thing is a honkin' beast. And speaking of honkin' beasts, the new 4x4 is gigantic. So driving this thing around the city is gonna be a little bit rough, but it does have some interesting new mods to play with, some of which may help you as you're going through the city. For one, it's got this new plow attachment that goes on the front, and this is supposed to reduce damage that it takes when hitting zombies, as well as increasing the damage it deals out. Next, we have the expanded seating mod. Now, this one's really interesting because without the mod, you can already carry 4 people. With the mod, it opens up the tailgate here, and you can actually carry 6 people. Next, he showed kind of adding the lighting rig to the top of it. You can put KCs across the top, and it gives this big old visual indicator up there. And then lastly, he showed the extended fuel mod, which adds these extra tanks along the side. But the real question we want to know is, how does this thing perform? So Lathan set up a little test run here, and definitely the old 4x4 would have stopped in that situation, so I think that that's a significant upgrade. So maybe going down to the cities, as long as you stick to the main roads, you'll be okay. So here is the new gyrocopter. In keeping with the theme, bigger is better, it is chunky and massive compared to the old one. Additionally, you can tell we can now carry 2 people on the gyrocopter. I don't know if that is with the extended seating mod or not. They did mention that the gyrocopter is the most recent vehicle that they've created, and you can see that Lathan flies about as well as I do. One of the mods I was hoping to see amongst all the vehicles was kind of expanded inventory, because when we originally saw the 4x4, it had images of boxes on the top, and I thought that was going to be a mod add-on. So just a few last items, and then we'll talk about release timing. So there's a new animation for explosions, which you'll see here.
Oh, look at that. Woo!
They also showed us how the new dew collector mods are going to function, so by default you're going to get murky water out of this. But the nice thing is you can craft it all with primitive items, so you don't need the water filter to actually make one. You'll just need basic stuff like polymer and pipes and duct tape and things like that, and you can make a dew collector. Now over time you can buy mods from the trader that they mentioned were readily available there. You've got the water filter, which will change it from murky water to providing pure water. Once that's in place, and you see that flips from yellow to blue. And then there's 2 mods, one of which is called the tarp, and then the other is the gatherer. And there was a lot of debate back and forth whether the wording of them was correct, but essentially the way they work is one of them will increase the number of bottles of water that you will get per day, and the other one will increase the capacity that can hold. So each slot up there can actually hold 2 bottles of water. So your dew collector will be able to hold up to 6 bottles of water before you have to empty it. This brings us to release timing, and we finally have some definitive information.
So when we release 1.0, so this is the tentative schedule, subject to some game-breaking bug preventing us from June 21st, Friday, June 21st. We're tentatively planning for Streamer Weekend to happen. Monday, June 24th, we're planning on a public experimental. We're going to work on that public experimental, and right now the target date for stable, and we're hoping to do a simultaneous release for console 2, would be Thursday, July 25th.
So there you have it, folks. 2 weeks till Streamer Weekend, and then it will be in your hands. Hey folks, it's Echo here. That's a wrap on the second dev stream. If you want to know all the features coming up in 1.0, you can check out the link below. Otherwise, a huge thanks to all my Patreon and Twitch supporters over here. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.